everyone, I'm sort of back. That's not my head. Oh, God. All right. I did warn you it would be like this. Let me shrink this down. Put myself up here. All right. That's a little bit better. It's a little bit weird, but it's also okay. Okay. Let me go back to the chat. Yeah, am I back now? Hopefully I'm back. Tell me on chat if I'm back. That's worrying. No one's saying anything on chat. And I'm back. Okay, and actually I can now see what I'm typing on this screen, so that's good. So I can see what you can see. Although the screen is kind of small. Shoulder. This is Kitty. This is I really like this terminal. It is, we'll probably talk about it a bit later, but it is GPU accelerated and has some nice, cool, funky keyboard control features, like you can have more than one terminal. So it's sort of Tmuxy as well, but I like it. If you search for Kitty and terminal, you'll probably find it. I should be keeping notes of what I'm saying. Okay. There we go. It is Kitty. It's not the, there is an old terminal called Kitty. Kitty. Font is Isevka. I love this font. This font is the best. This font is, I think, that is one of the few things I give Patreon money to. All right. There we go. Just gonna check my little comments. Lisp-verse. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. The dependent types thing looked really interesting. Like I said, the type-driven dependent book was the one that finally let me kind of wrap my head around dependent types. And I don't really gel with the what is an integer question and answer like style of the little schema books. But if that's what floats your boat, you should totally check them out. I think well, you know what? I'm not sure about dependent types, right? So I got really into it. I thought maybe this is the solution to everything. And now, because I'm reading a lot and doing a lot of with Clojure, Rich Hickey has a much more pragmatic approach to what types offer. And so now I'm beginning to think, oh, is the deal that we're kind of building a Prolog-y system in our types and in our compiler, and that's fine if we are, but maybe it's not like the fundamental truth underlying all reality that I really thought it was going to be. I got kind of excited by the Curry-Howard correspondence, the thing that between types and proofs and programs and predicates. It's very deep, and I thought maybe I thought it was a bit deeper than it actually was. So I got my laptop what I was thinking about doing was actually just resetting it completely. I have it right now. I have it installed with GalliaMOS, and I have like a setup there. But it's like half set up. I set it up on an airplane, and I sort of feel like I want to start from fresh. So maybe I'll start from fresh again. So what that means is the link. Oh yeah. Let me put in the Discord link. I had that briefly. Bear with me. It's coming together. I'm abstracting the rummage disk. I'm clicking on my thing. Just me in it. But that's okay. Here is the link for y'all. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, that's the Discord link. Okay, that's the Discord link. Okay, that's the Discord link. Yeah, okay, that's the Discord link. Maybe I should even put that somewhere. Maybe I should even put that somewhere. Maybe I should even put that. What? It's changed my settings. Why did it change? What? It's changed my settings. Why did it change? Change the description of my. Change the description of my. Change the description site to travel. I think it was just trying to be clever. I think it was just trying to be clever. I think it was just trying to be clever. I think it was just trying to be clever. I think it was just trying to be clever. Okay. 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 Well, apparently that didn't change, but whatever. Well, apparently that didn't change. I can change on this. Whatever. Well, apparently that didn't change. Is there an echo? I don't even hear anything. That's really annoying. Is there an echo? Oh, you can probably. I don't even hear anything. That's really annoying. Me. Is there an echo? Oh, you can probably. I don't even hear anything. That's really annoying. Me. Is there an echo? Oh, you can probably. I don't even hear anything. That's really. Look, I don't know what I'm doing. So if there's an echo, I'm just using this to listen to other people. So I'm just using this. Maybe if I listen to other people, mute myself. I'm just using this. Maybe do that. If I listen to other people, mute myself. I'm just using this. Maybe do that. If I listen to other people, mute myself. I'm just using this. Maybe do that. If I listen to other people, mute myself. There. Okay. I think that's probably what's going to work best. There. Okay. Yeah, tell me ironing out the kinks. It's a little hard to. Yeah, tell me ironing out the kinks. All of this. A little hard doing it. Tell me ironing out the kinks. Okay, so doing it. Tell me ironing out the kinks. Okay, so is doing it. Tell me ironing out the kinks. Okay, so is doing it. Tell me ironing out the kinks. Okay, so is doing it. Tell me ironing out the kinks. Okay. so okay, so
Okay.
okay,
So there are a number of things. The first thing I think I gotta do is
there are a number of things.
The first thing I think I gotta do
just
is
reinstall
a number of things. The first thing
GalliumOS, which is a
just
Chromebook
reinstall
adjusted
GalliumOS, which is
a
Chromebook
adjusted
Ubuntu,
which I really liked,
but there's some weirdness about it, which I really liked.
but there's some weirdness about it, which
Redo.
I really
Okay.
liked.
So sudo
Redo.
reboot on this.
So sudo
Redo.
Reboot doing.
So sudo
Into GalliumOS. It's going to reboot into
GalliumOS.
it's going to reboot into
GalliumOS.
Chromos, and then I'm going to tell Chromos to reset everything from scratch. And then I'm going to tell Chromos
is a good
to
idea.
reset
Why, Danny?
everything
Chromos.
from scratch. And then I'm going to tell
that
Chromos
is a good idea.
because I want to record everything. I do have headphones turned off. How is the echo? Is the echo gone? Okay, I think I know what was going on there. I was feeding in the desktop audio. Really strange. Okay. Oh, I also know what's going on. It's probably because I'm actually looking at this somewhere else. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Yeah, that probably scared off every single viewer that I had. Okay, it's going that. It says OS verification off. I'm going to reboot it. Okay. Don't remember the password to my Chrome account. Oh, I do. It's don't watch my mouth. Don't work out what my password is from the words that I'm mouthing. Okay. All right. So what I have here, which you can't see, but that's okay. It's okay for me anyway. Is I'm in Khronos, and this isn't going to be a guide really to setting up a Chromebook. This is just going to be me resetting GalliumOS to scratch. So I'm not doing the stuff where I unlock the Chromebook. So what am I doing for this stream? Well, originally it was me just going through, like, doing little coding exercises. But like I say, I don't know. I'm gonna mess around with this and do different things. It's really me just trying to like chill after a stressful day at the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Somewhere here I have like the GalliumOS settings, or the way you download it. Although I remember that actually being a nightmare.
Gallium OS has some install scripts that I am sort of trying to find here. I can't see them. All right, time to go to their website and have a look there. Gallium OS. Dependent types. I can try and explain dependent types if you want while I'm doing this and juggling. So the thing that gets functional language programmers all sort of hot is their idea of types. So my idea of types for many years was, you know, like that's a string, that's an integer. These are like, you know, the things, the shapes of the thing that you put stuff in when you create a variable, right? Like you need something to be a string and you need something to be an integer, and that's what types are. Functional programming folks, particularly from the Haskell line, really see types in a couple of ways. One is a fantastic way of creating software that doesn't have runtime errors, that is very clear in what it's trying to do. So, for instance, in Haskell, you can create a type that can only store red, blue, or green, right? So it can only have 3 states, red or blue or green. And so that's different from a type that's either an integer or even a type where you're sort of mapping integers to those 3 things. And then you can construct much more complicated systems. So for instance, you could create something, let's forget about colors for a moment, but you could create something that was a type that was either a number of degrees centigrade or a number of degrees Fahrenheit, and it couldn't be one or the other. I mean, it couldn't be both or either. It wouldn't be ambiguous. And that's sort of amazing because that means that you've kind of locked into that type something about the nature of measuring heat. And it means that you can never get into a situation where you accidentally sort of add 1 to your centigrade measurement and you think you're actually adding 1 to your Fahrenheit measurement, right? Or you're comparing something and saying, is it more than 32 degrees Fahrenheit? But it turns out that that variable actually has is measured in centigrade, and so your satellite blows up. So this is interesting, right? And there's this profound thing that they really are obsessed about, which is the Kari-Harod correspondence, which is sort of this idea that you can, don't ask me to explain this, but you can encode predicates, you can encode logical constructions into type systems. And then under those conditions, programs are a proof for those statements, those logical statements you're making. And that's sort of mind-blowing, but the way I try and understand it is that it is possible to create a type using these so complicated and neat type setups that cannot possibly hold a value. And I guess the best way, if you're interested, if you'll think about these things in an OOP, an object-oriented way, or a traditional coding way, it's like you've got an object or something that you don't have a constructor for. And if you don't have a constructor for it, well, it's uninhabited. You can't even make something that can be in a box that has that type. And basically, I'm so murdering this if anybody listens to this, but if a type is uninhabited in that way, that is actually, you can squint at that in a different way and say, actually, that's a proof of sorts. Anyway, the fundamental thing here is that they really think that they're onto something about creating programs that, first of all, a lot of the bugs and a lot of the nature of the sort of logical inconsistencies that when you're programming often kind of come out and end up in flaws in your program, you can kind of shake those out at compile time. And if you ever play around with Elm or Haskell, this is the thing that's sort of a little bit weird and mind-blowing, is that it's really hard to compile a program. And why is it hard to compile a program? Because the compiler is always going, hey, you forgot about this, right? So if, to go back to our red, green, blue idea, if you had a statement that said, if the color is red, then do this. If the color is blue, then do this. If the color is, like that. The compiler, and this is a trivial example, but the compiler will say, hey, you forgot about blue. And you go, oh yeah, I actually have to build something to the Curry-Howard correspondence. And where was I? Oh yeah, so a lot of the work in when you're writing Haskell programs, and maybe we should do some of that on the stream, involves just getting them to compile. And it's really annoying because it just keeps on going, hey, you've forgotten this. But then you kind of realize that every error message it's telling you is a fundamental problem with your code. It's not just a kind of like, oh, you didn't dot your I, or you forgot to capitalize this. Yeah, right. It's better than it's happening at runtime. And then you kind of like clear all those compile things and you run your program and it just works. Like, it doesn't, like the normal thing that you have when you're programming is you correct all the syntax errors, blah, 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 and then you have like another hour or so, or whatever, of fixing the problems at runtime, like you say. And it just works. You just run it and go, wait, it compiled and it worked. And it's not always true. Like, there are like more profound problems that can be wrong with your code, but it is the thing that they love, and it is the thing that means that you can feel more confident in a it's all hot. They're all hot about everything. They're very excitable, pale young gentlemen and ladies, and they. Well, what were we talking about? Oh, dependent types, and basically dependent types are an attempt to broaden what you do within the type system even more, and that means having even more stuff that comes up as compile errors. And classically, the example of this is with a dependent type. It's not just you can basically make the structure of types dependent on values. And let me try and give an example of that. The classic one that they do with a dependent type is you can have a type that also encodes that's an array that also encodes how long the array is. And what that means is that, so you can create, say you write a function that takes an array and adds a 0 to it. Just adds it to the end of the array. Well, that function is going to return a type which is one bigger than the type it was given. And it will always be the case. It will always do that. And that means that you can basically write programs where the compiler is tracking how big the array is. And you go, but what about if I have some user input at runtime and that makes the array this big? Like, it's not going to be able to know anything about that. But the thing is because the types are like logical statements, it actually can deduce stuff, right? It can go, okay, this is going to be this big because this function can only add and this function can only take things away. And the thing that's mind-blowing is that what that means is that you spend a lot of time when you're working with dependent types actually creating logical proofs for your code. You're not only writing code that you kind of, touch wood, hope is bug-free, but you're writing proofs which mean that there is only one way to write the code, and you prove mathematically that what it does or what promises you make it's almost plain English. It's so close. That you're writing these like logical statements and proofs. The problem is that writing proofs is hard, right? You mathematicians write proofs. Programmers don't do that. And I guess what functional programmers have been trying to do for years, or computer scientists who like functional programming try to do, is try to like wrench this really firmly logically based theory of process and make it something that human beings can use. I went to college in late 80s, early 90s, and I went to Oxford, and a lot of the early functional programming work was being done there. And those guys were so freaky and so weird, right? They would basically sit there going, I've written like 30 pages of proofs to show that incrementing a variable by 1 is true. And you just go, you're not getting anywhere, right? Like, I want to play Tetris. And like, can you write a program that plays Tetris? And they'd be like, I guess in like maybe 20 years, like, it'd be really, we could probably get it together. And my friend Seth, who I'm sure I will talk about at great length in the future, because we talk about this stuff a lot, he described going to a CCC talk, Chaos Computer talk, where somebody was trying to build a functionally rigorous, with proofs, PDF reader, so that this would be bug-free and therefore it would be totally secure. And just sort of, I mean, the PDF spec is described, but it's huge, and just his like groveling over like how to build this whole thing very slowly and very precisely. And Seth, who is a very precise person, was just, how is this even possible? And I was like going, no, you should come and play around with Haskell and Idris, because it does show how possible it can be. But then we both set about working together to write a Lisp in Haskell. And it turns out that's not a great thing to use Haskell for. And like, Seth was just going, it's been 2 weeks and all that we've had are compiler errors. When is this going to end? And I was going, no, like, it'll be very exciting when it all comes together. But I think we're going to play around with Clojure next. So All right. So, let me. Where were we? We were gonna. I was gonna trash my Chrome. Okay, so Gallium OS. Gonna go to galliumos.org. Oh, apparently I'm not because I haven't set up my Wi-Fi on this. Set up You know, people complain a lot about the internet, but everyone loves Wi-Fi. That's all I have to say. And it's really, hey, yes. You just said hey, and oh, right. Oh no, I was in mid rant. Tell me where to begin again, and I'll take it from there. This is now me typing in yet another password and me hoping that nobody reads my lips while I type it in. Yeah, they're trying to like sponge it together. It's okay. Like apart from anything, this should be streaming on live YouTube. Yeah, and you can watch it. So, did I get into my own Wi-Fi? I did. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to Gallium OS. I really appreciate you being here, GX Evolved. It's really relaxing for me. You have no idea. Okay, so look, there's nothing on my screen. I should at least put something on that screen. So now we're downloading from Gallium OS and installing it on a new laptop. S.org code. So I've done all this. I also donated to them, so that was good of me. They've got this new beta out, or an alpha, and it's been at alpha for a long time, and really you kind of want the alpha. But it's a bit tricky to like get it together. Okay, I think I'm looking for Braswell Bismuth. I swear I've already downloaded, but let's put it in. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at any chats right now. Let me switch back to chats. Okay, so gun shell. Well, I guess I'll just wget it. I guess that's what people do these days. Except I can't use. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's an ISO. I don't want an ISO. I'm in San Francisco. Where are you? New York. You're up late, I guess. Except New York, everyone is up late all the time. Documentation. Foundation, installing Gallium OS. Have you been coding long? Have you been messing around with computers long? See, this really wants me to install it on a CHRX. That's the program. Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember Justin TV. Huh. Yeah. Oh man, that's hard. It's really hard to outsource. You like kind of have to hover over people when you're doing that. Yeah. You know, I have this a lot with like designers. Like when I was first involved in doing website designers, we had designers who wouldn't use Photoshop, or they would use Photoshop, but they didn't know how web pages worked. So they and one day I just had to say to this guy, like, you should learn this. And he said, why? You know, I can get other people to do it. And you say, yeah, but you won't, when they say they can't do something, you won't know whether they're telling the truth or not. And he took that to heart. I don't think he ever learned how to code, but he certainly started worrying more after that. Go. Okay, this is program Go I should run, which I did see. So let's run Go. But you know, I mean, the question is how, like, at what level do you want to learn this stuff? Like, in some ways, it's good to like know this stuff from the bottom up. But some ways, like, you know, you wanna the best way is to be close to the thing you want to produce, like music or whatever. Oh shit, it's just started installing something. Okay, I guess that's what I wanted to do. I'll leave it at that. It's now installing, excitingly. That's it, installing. I'm very happy with myself. So I don't go out to music much, but I went out the other night to George Clinton and Parliament, and there was a guy there who's a brilliant thinker about the future of music, and I'm terrible names, but it will come to me. Got such a good name. What is his name? Anyway, the thing he was talking about was how he'd sort of introduced the Parliament music and funk to all the Grateful Dead heads in the area. Like, because the Deadheads, part of the early history of the internet is that the Deadheads were all kind of into it, and or some of them were. And the way that the Grateful Dead spread their music was by encouraging bootlegs, and that meant that that community sort of understood the internet as a good thing for music rather than going to be the death of everything. Anyway, he was one of those people who was one of the bridges between technology and the music industry, and still is. But that meant that he knew the Deadheads and he knew the rest of the music industry. So he was very happy to kind of merge those two things together. What was his name? He's such a good guy. Future of Music Coalition he runs, or ran. It'll come to me. Yeah, so I work for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and of course that was founded by, one of the founders was John Perry Barlow, who was a lyricist for the Grateful Dead. And a lot of, when people are sort of linking the 60s Californian counterculture to the early birth of the personal computer. He's one of those people. Tell me. I'm not sure timing works on Twitch streams, but you have to tell me the answer. Yep. I don't know. Like I say, I'm not like a huge music person. Um, what am I listening to at the moment? I'm listening to 70s Somalian kind of funk reggae, and that's good. But I can't help thinking I'm enjoying this because it's really obscure and odd, which I guess is, part of the fun of music, right? But I could never shake that terrible, anxious self-consciousness of, am I really enjoying this, or am I just enjoying it because everyone else is enjoying it? Okay, here we go. Release 2.1, latest. And I want something more alpha-y than that. I think I'm supposed to do something more alpha-y than that. Temp TRX. Okay, here we go. This GRX install program. This actually looks kind of right. No, I want 3.0. Bismuth, that's what I want. Bismuth. Go. That'll work. Okay, let that run for a bit. Look, nothing on the screen. That's terrible. That's like dead air. Anyway, so how did your streaming startup go? Did you just like kind of go, this isn't going to work, or did you sell out, or? Well, it did not go well. Don't worry. I think we've all been in bad startup situations. I won't. Well, I could talk a bit about mine. I mean, they were okay, but I think the only real startup I was part of was Richard Branson in the UK wanted to set up an ISP, and that taught me things about people. I'm not sure it taught me much about business, but that was where I talked to the designer, and he was like, oh yeah, maybe I need to learn about the web. So this is my first sort of, now in the last 5 years I've been doing, like, I've been actually managing people, and oh boy, that's been tough. For the Electronic Frontier Foundation. So this is this nonprofit that I work for. No, like I work there full time, and it's just, I never. Oh right, yeah, not like music managing, like managing human beings. So I mean, I don't have much to say about it, but like that's one of the things that, like, do you have people working for you now, or are you just coding for yourself? Cannot get this to work. I know I went through this problem last time. It's really annoying. Astronomy. That's awesome. Yeah, I hear you. Definitely hear you. Lots of interesting things going on in both of those things. We just got a iRobot Brava, and they keep on picking up robots, and they keep on, not being good. But this new Brava one is actually pretty good. It's dumb, but it actually does the job really well. Am I gonna get this to work? Yeah, it's like an iRobot washing robot. iRobot, the Roomba people. Okay. Maybe I can just like... It's exciting. Let me at least give people something to look at on my screen. There we go. You know what I could do is I could just kind of log into this. I think I can do that. Oh no, it doesn't have SSH. Okay. I don't think I can run UNC on it. Setting up. Okay, I can do this. I can do this. I just have to find out the name of the software. I wonder if the log files still have when I actually successfully installed this, which is not long ago. I mean, I might just give in and use my half-installed version, but now I really would like to start from scratch. No, it just trashes the old logs. Where do you do a wget script, and then you get it, and then you download something. Okay. Maybe beta will do it. Yeah, maybe if I say go get the beta version. Okay. The trouble with having something interesting on the screen, like, you know, terminal characters, is I can't actually watch the Twitch chat. Yes, I have it over here. Do I have it here? Yeah. Huh? Here we go. I am in my own chat. Of course, like, it actually doesn't show what was just being chatted about, so also annoying. It is. Well, I did have an older stream, but it was the same as this. There were some old videos of it, and I'm kind of rebooting it. I know, I was kind of happy with it. Like, I was actually in therapy when I came up with this, and it really cheered me up. It was actually better than the therapy itself, to be absolutely honest. And also, people, when I was sort of saying to somebody I wanted to stream, and like stream is so sort of very excited. And press return. Is that going to work? That looks promising. Okay, good. It's going to install. And I was saying, no, this is going to be chill. This is going to be like the guy who paints. This is going to be very relaxed. And like, I'm going to try and see how far I can go that way. And though when I first started streaming, people are like, oh yeah, I like this. I like this relaxed approach. Yeah. There are a couple of other code therapies out there, unfortunately. There is I think there's a band, and I think there's actually a film, but it's okay. I mean, you know, all the best domain names are taken. All right, look at this. It's downloading. I don't know whether you can see that, but it's got little hash marks, and it's downloading that way. All right, so let me, you know, could I set up a stream chat and things like that now? And then I'd have something ready to go for this. I don't think I could. I don't think there's any point in me setting up anything here until I have that going. Well, I wonder if I have my pet scripts over here. Do I have meta in this set up? Like, this is an extra account on my work laptop. Like I've said, I have, if I do Who Am I, this is what I use for presentations. And I just reused it for Twitch streaming. And it makes me nervous. It makes me feel a bit weird about like doing it on my work laptop. I'm always a bit scared of like accidentally revealing a password, and like to have these things separated. And this is not my normal shell setup at all. Like, this has got kind of bits and pieces of my nice normal setup. So this is a bunch of commands that I set up to set up my keyboard, and some of these work and some of them don't in this setup. Like, it's not really designed for this user account. It should really be in the other one. So my idea is that I want to be able to create a Danny friendly user account like that, and I have it set up, and so I could use that on, like, you know, conceivably I could use that on AWS or a cloud account. I now have so cloud machines are now really cheap. You can get a server somewhere very cheaply. There's a site called, I think it's Low End Boxes. Let me just double check that. And like you can get a server for let me do a Google on that. Low End Box, I think. Yeah, lowendbox.com. If you go there, you'll basically see that you can get a server for $10 a year, $20 a year. It's crazy. And I mean, they're not great, right? But $6 a year is one of the sites that are there. But the idea of being able to just like create your user environment on one of those boxes and just be comfortable about where everything is a very tempting thing for me. Oh, so my goals. So I would say that my career has been mostly based on understanding new things in computing or technology to a sufficient degree that I can predict some like societal changes, or at least get to where they're happening. And am I still streaming? Looks like it. So it's mostly about that. Like, I'm not sure I will ever be in exactly the right place at the right time to, you know, make $1 million or whatever, but I can get close enough to it for life to be exciting. I am kind of a futurist. It's sort of part of my job, and I used to, for many years, I used to write columns on technology, and they were definitely forward looking. So I basically moved to Silicon Valley just after the dot-com crash, and you know, it was a wasteland, but there were so many interesting things going on, right? I'm always excited at, like, you know, the worst possible moment because you can see the seeds of an exciting future. And so I ended up writing a lot about Creative Commons and Mozilla as it was starting off, even about early Bitcoin, although that was kind of later. Flickr, I wrote like pieces on all of these things, and they were super exciting, but no one knew what they were. And it was actually really hard to persuade my editor to write about any of them, because he was like, you know, why aren't you writing about, you know, Cisco? So that's what I like. And so again, like you, like I'm going, okay, maybe I'll mess around with Agda, because maybe I'll learn something about like the world or like the future. Oh, talking of the future, how is this doing? It is generating a boot image. This is very exciting stream. Look at this. Soon I will have this cheap ass $250 laptop. So I went through a period of not knowing what the hell was going to happen, and actually ended up doing a podcast interview with someone where I was kind of confessing this. And then I had like these really exciting conversations with people who had felt the same way and were newly buoyed up. So where do I see the future? I'm actually trying to get myself out of the threat model of this, because my actual day job at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, we're constantly trying to gauge the threats to the future of technology and like fend them off. And that sort of makes you adopt a slightly more paranoid, not pessimistic, but sort of what are the limits to what we could do. I'm super interested in incentive systems. So, and actually, I went to a futurist thing, and you could see everyone was like nodding along and going, yeah, that's the thing. So this is the thing that I think people don't recognize about specifically Bitcoin and Merkle trees and all of that, and just the genius of the initial Bitcoin paper, which has nothing actually to do with the blockchain per se and the cryptographic primitives behind it. God, I sound so much like a futurist now. You've pushed me into it. Ooh, okay. It's ready to boot. Okay, I'm gonna hit boot. It's also created a really stupid default username, but I'll live with that. Got to change that. Okay. Then I do Control L for legacy. All right. I need to mark this in my Twitch stream in some way. I know that there's a way of doing that. When was it? 21:31. Here we go. Well, still traveling outdoors. That's so wrong. Okay, science and technology. There we go. Stream markers. Here we go. Actually booted Gallium OS. I don't know what that really does. Enable via channel settings. Oh, for God's sake. Okay. So okay, this is actually just an hour in, so that's a pretty easy way of remembering it. It took me an hour to get this far. So incentive systems. So the genius of the original Satoshi paper was aligning everybody's incentives in the Bitcoin system, from the miners to the users to the developers, in such a way as it mutually maintained the whole thing. And that's why it was successful. That's why it propagated. That's why it's really hard to kill. And I think part of the background of that led to them being able to do that was thinking a lot about smart contracts and that space. Because if you think about it, creating any of these things is like creating a little machine that you then set running, and you have very little control. Oh, incentive systems. So you have all of these incentives that you have to align just right, otherwise the whole system falls apart. And so capitalism is a great incentive system, right? Like, one of the reasons it's so hard to kill, and one of the reasons why it's pretty eclectic about who it accepts. Like, I think people don't realize that part of the reason why capitalism persists so much is because anyone can join it at any time, right? And it's actually really hard not to join it. Like, you feel like you benefit.
for all its critics. Like it kind of works on its own terms, and can continue to work for 10 to 20 years. I mean, I'm not hundreds of years, but like think about how hard it is to build any organization or institution or thing that can be self-sustaining for longer than 20 years. Um, Bitcoin will be around in another 10 years just because it's just really hard to stop it. I think one of the ways that we were talking about this, because again, as I say, one of the things that we have to sort of paranoidally worry about at work is, well, what would kill this? Like, how would you kill it? And we came up with lots of ways of killing it. But then someone pointed out, and I think it was Seth, that even if you killed it stone dead, if there was a copy of the ledger somewhere around, and all of these nodes have a copy of the ledger, all it takes is for someone to restart it and the whole thing begins again. So as long as the only way to stop it is to make sure that the incentives never align again. Yeah, I mean, you can. I think that I think that the incentives aren't there if you have a competitor, right? And there was a really interesting example of this because one of the problems people are facing at the moment is 51% attacks, which is the failure state of any yes, working, any Bitcoin style currency, is that if you have 51% of the mining capability, you can break it. Essentially, you can double spend. Now, Bitcoin is brilliantly arranged so that even if you did manage to get 51%, you wouldn't have an incentive to break it because it would be better for you, given your investment in mining machines and all of these things, for Bitcoin to continue. The problem is that Bitcoin is now by far the largest in terms of mining blockchain. So what that means is there's all this mining equipment, and it's having to do a lot of work to get money in the Bitcoin space because it's competing with a lot of other miners. So there's a lot of mining going on. So the hash rate is, the hash difficulty is very high. But a small part of that mining space is probably capable of taking over 51% of another smaller coin, which means that there might be a wider incentive for those miners to switch from mining Bitcoin, cheat a little bit in these other currencies, and you know, they might make a bit of money just by breaking them, by double spending, but unlikely, but a little bit, maybe enough to make it worthwhile, and they can kill off any competitors to Bitcoin. So that's an incentive that's bad, right? It's bad for the other coin, and it means that anybody who wasn't the first, it wasn't the original Bitcoin, might not be able to use the same incentive systems that Bitcoin has, because it has this other factor now that there's this huge mining system next door to it. Is that branding? I mean, some of it's branding, but it's more that the ground changes from underneath you.
All right, so I have this Gallium OS set up. It's very basic, which means that I'm thinking it probably doesn't have SSH on it. So let's see. Mm-hmm. Grep SSH. Okay, yeah, it's got the SSH client, but it doesn't have the SSH server. So I'm gonna install the server, and then we can log into it and like start seeing stuff, which will be exciting. Yeah, I was thinking about that today. I was trying to work out like what the tax rate would be like in order to pay for the deficit, and um, I'm not too pessimistic about it, but it does make you go, okay, there are these systems that might not be self-sustaining, but you know, always bet on systems that have persisted in the past, right? Like if something has existed for a very long time, there's a very good chance that it will continue to exist. Maybe not forever, but more likely than not into the next 10 years. If you have a 700-year institution, then the chances of it dying in the next 5 years are much smaller. So if you look at things like national debt, they've always existed. So you actually have to take that into account where you just go, oh no, the whole thing's going to economically collapse. No, like if it's an unsustainable thing sustains for a long time, it's probably not unsustainable. I'm now connected to the Wi-Fi. That's excited. Yeah. And you know, it really feels like we're in one of those times right now too. Um, okay. Still open SSH. Okay. So I will just have SSH. We'll do it all just via SSH until we can get something up and going. All right. Oh, I mean, it totally could happen. I mean, I'm not questioning that. I'm just like, what percentage of probability do you attach to it? What are you? Let's make a prediction, and then let's try and estimate the percentage likelihood that that is going to continue. So, and you know, every bet on currency is going to be like that. I wish I had a way that I could see your Twitch comments and work on this, and I think I know a way of doing it. Let's see what happens if I do this. Does everything still work? Kind of does. Okay, and I think I can just send this away here. Okay. Oh no, wait, I don't have your chat. Where's the chat gone? Okay. No, those are whispers. I don't want whispers, I want chats. In the chat. Well, this is really annoying. How do I get to the... Bear with me. Okay. The last thing I see of you is it would take a personal power and to try and fix the mess by telling them to go to hell. Tell me what you meant just before that. While I SSH into... Guess this is CRHX logo. Cool. Is. Okay. I do too. Yeah. Yeah, it would. The thing I was reading was saying, well, people worry when the complete debt is bigger than 77% of the GDP, and we're at like 75%. And I couldn't work out whether that was supposed to be reassuring or not. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to SSH. This is where it gets interesting again. So it's like 118 is the point where it's interesting. So I think I'm going to turn this into my very early changelog records. So we'll say McDir, this computer I want is to be called sub. So let's make subs changelog start now. Just installed Gallium OS dev. A smarter person than me would have recorded the command line, but I think it was should go -r dev from the CRHX script. We can indeed laugh. I'm an optimist. I mean, this is why, you know, I'm a futurist, right? I'm like, I made a decision a long time ago that I wouldn't give in to pessimism just because I think my constitution is towards being depressed about things. So it's important for me to have a reason to get up every day. Okay. That's all a pretty good explanation on CRHX. And we have a timestamp here. I'll just say 1:20 into the live stream. 2021. Assume I'm actually recording this as well. Let's check. Yep, I am recording it. That echo is going to be totally embarrassing. I might have to edit all of this down. Yeah. Yep. Gotta be an optimist. And you've got to come up with a solution that's non-zero sum. You've got to come up with a solution that benefits everyone. I really don't like solutions which involve just passively redistributing resources. Well, maybe it sounded spooky. That would have been good. Okay, so we have that command, and then with a bit of luck, we can log on. Yes, okay. So now we're into Gallium OS. Now I'm going to do something a little weird, a little bit weird here, is that I'm going to SSH minus XA CRHX at CRX. Was that it? CX. Yeah. So that's minus XA. The A passes on my SSH user agent, which is useful for hopping around lots of different servers. And the X lets me run X apps on my screen that are running on this new machine. Okay. Great. Now what? Okay. That's a really good question. Okay, I know what first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add actually, do I even know the password for this? Am I actually running SSH agent? That would suck. You know what I'm going to do? The first thing I'm going to do is, where am I? Okay, presentation. Is that I'm going to run OBS on the other one. And then I'm going to switch over to it. And that will make things a lot more easy. Okay. Why does it keep not remembering that password? Okay. Install OBS Studio. Exciting. I'm also going to change the password. There we go. Getting installing everything for the program that I use to stream this. What time is it? Oh, that's the wrong time. What time is it in? Here's a tip. Type that and then please say date. It should, America. It's probably just America. There we go. 10 o'clock. I should probably stop. Okay, that was very exciting. It was really nice talking to you, GX Evolved. Like your handle. If you want one more final thing that I think you would really like, let me give you a URL. For a site that is run by this really, really nice person. Who is doing a lot of interesting things and has lots of interesting links to good people. So here we go. You will like this site. That's me. It says Malaclips, but I'm Code Therapy. And if you want to follow me, I am Mastodon Social at Mala. And that's where I mostly post. And if you want to give me money, you can donate to EFF.org, and that will indirectly give me money. Okay, I'm going to log off. It was really nice talking and speaking to everyone. See you another time.